So the first one we're going to talk about took place in Port Stephens, Australia in 1918. Eyewitness account. This was recorded by Australian naturalist David Steed, who'd later on publish Sharks and Rays in Australia. In the year 1918, I recorded the sensation that had been caused among the outside crayfish fishermen at Port Stephens, when for several days they refused to go to sea to their regular fishing grounds in the vicinity of Broughton Island. The men had been at work on the fishing grounds, which lie in deep water, when an enormous shark of almost unbelievable proportions put in appearance, lifting pot after pot containing many crayfishes and taking, as the men said, pots, mooring lines and all. These crayfish pots, it should be mentioned, were about 3 feet 6 inches in diameter and frequently contained from 2 to 3 dozen good-sized crayfish, each weighing several pounds. The men were all anonymous that this shark was something the like of which they had never dreamed of. In company with local fisheries inspector, I questioned many of the men very closely, and they all agreed at the gigantic structure of the beast, but the lengths they gave were, on whole, observed. I mention them, however, as an indication of the state of mind which this unusual giant had thrown them into, and bear in mind that these were men who were used to the sea and all sorts of weather and all sorts of sharks as well. One of the crew said the shark was 300 feet, 90 metres long at least. Others said it was as long as the wharf on which we stood on, about 115 feet. They affirmed that the water boiled over a large space when the fish swam past. They were all familiar with whales, which they had often seen passing at sea, but this was a vast shark. They had seen its terrible head, which was at least as long as the roof on the wharf shed at Nelson Bay. Impossible, of course, but these were prosaic and rather stolid men, not given to fish stories, nor even to talk about their catches. Further, they knew that the person they were talking to, myself, had heard all the fish stories for years. One of the things that impressed me was that they all agreed as to the ghostly whitish colour of the vast fish. The local fisheries inspector of the time, Mr. Patton, agreed with me that it must have been something really gigantic to put these experienced men in such a state of fear and panic. So that was recorded by David Steed. So this happened at Port Stephens in Australia in 1918. So it's a really fascinating story where fishermen have encountered a gigantic shark out on the fishing grounds. So let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are. I always love hearing stories about sightings of sharks by fishermen and that. They're fantastic. So could Megalodon still be out there? Could this been a Megalodon, or could this have just been a large great white shark? So let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.